Hello. Hello, lovely
Hi.
listeners. Normally it says like now
Oh,
recording, but it didn't. Hi, lovely listeners. Hi, lovely Megan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes, you guys don't know this, but we actually recorded a different episode together yesterday. So me and Megan are just recording podcast episodes every day. And what was fun is I saw your Instagram story afterwards about like this being a goal and a dream.
Yes.
So fun. Before
Yes.
we even start, actually, because there's a very specific reason. Megan said something, and I was like, I have to bring you on the podcast to speak to you about this. Um, but before we do that, um, what just for our listeners, what is it like to have a goal, have a dream, and then achieve it twice in 1 week?
It was exciting. It was definitely something to celebrate, but um, at the same time that I was surprised how it happened, I also felt like it it was meant to be in a way. And so I was saying on that Instagram story that it also just happened alongside a normal day. It was after breakfast and before I took my dog on a walk, and I celebrated in there, but it was really incredible to imagine me 3 years ago listening to your podcast and thinking, wouldn't it be cool to be on Vicky's podcast someday talking about something and that interests me or that she found interesting too, and just to be there. It was um like a I don't know, a future self moment, but living it. And
Yeah.
it felt so natural and normal at the same time. It was very interesting to see both sides of that. It was exciting and normal too.
Yes. And I think it's such a big point in a world where we're like always looking to achieve something and the next thing and the next thing to hold that appreciation of like, no, I remember that moment 3 years ago. I remember having that thought, and here I am living the reality of it. Because even like, I don't know, 3 years ago, saying, oh, it will happen in 3 years, you might have been like, will it? I don't know. But it's like you become the person who it was inevitable for. And that's why it feels normal as well.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. So I'm just going to jump into why to what you said that made me be like, I have to have you on the podcast. Um, so for those of you that don't know, Megan is a nurse as well. And why don't you share a little bit actually about yourself? I'll not introduce you, even though they might have heard on the other episode about you, but let's introduce yourself here too.
Yes. I'm Megan. I live in the Southern United States right now. I have a family. I'm mom to four. I've got two in high school and two in the elementary age. And since I was about 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse. And that also was a future self thing where I just always knew I wanted to be there. And I just took the steps that I needed to get there, and I did. And I have been doing that. I started 15 years ago this month, actually, if we were to go by months. So very, very fun. I love that part. I do it just part-time now. And I found coaching about 4 or 5 years ago. And so now I do coaching as well. And
Hmm.
I love coaching women, and I want them to have pauses in their life to insert rest and make sure they have lunch and are still have their interests and reaching goals.
Hmm. Amazing. So much goodness there. And I know that there's probably people listening that are like, wait, you're a mum of four, high school, elementary, and a nurse, and you're running a coaching business. How do you do all of that?
How do I do all of that? I am part-time
Yeah.
nursing. That helps. That I do that, but it's still, I think one thing that helps me do all that is that I love all of the things that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't always feel like work. I also know that I don't do it all alone. And so I do include my partner or my children, or I get support. I have coach, I'm in Time Hackers, and I think it's been huge the last couple of years, really being in Time Hackers and remembering that what we're going to talk about today, that it doesn't take time, or I shouldn't give time all the credit. It's just like one piece in a 15 ingredient, five instruction recipe. It doesn't get all the credit for what goes well or what doesn't go well. And when I say, okay, if it doesn't take time, what does it take? then I start to find the pieces that are within my locus of control.
Mhm.
And coaching has helped me a lot too to learn what to let go of and
Mhm.
surrender and let how the pieces fall be perfect when I've done what I can in that moment. And also finding time for rest. I think that's something that I think we're going to talk about today too. First few years of motherhood, I was trying to do it all and be it all. And I realized that that's not sustainable. And so making rest as important as the work I do to support me in that has been a big part of it as well, of doing that all, saying no sometimes and supporting myself even when saying no is hard because I've said
Yeah.
yes to a lot of things.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people can relate to that saying no is hard, but I want to bring back to that point that you said, which is what we want to talk about today, which is this idea
Mhm.
that things take time. And I believe this forever. I was like, things take time, so I'm going to work 15-hour days so I can get there faster. And the listeners probably know by this point that I didn't get there faster. Um, and so the whole premise, just for those of you that are maybe new and just landing on this episode of time hacking, is this idea that if things don't take time, what do they take? Because in my own life, when I thought things took time and I was giving all my hours, all I got was burnout. And when I drastically reduced my hours, I created a lot of success, like my 3-year goals within 6 months. So it was like things didn't take time. I couldn't use time to get there faster, and things didn't take time like I actually could collapse the timeline. I think that's like a phrase that a lot of people use. Um, so so in the world, there's lots of things. I remember when I was pregnant, and we're going to speak about Megan's going to speak about this more. When I was after I had my baby, someone said to me in one of the coaching containers, "Well, having a baby takes time," but my baby came 5 weeks early, and I was like, definitely time passes as things happen, but it doesn't take 9 months because it didn't for me. And you know, I've had friends that have delivered earlier and later and so on. But Megan, will you share your example of where things might not take time?
Yes. So where we give time a lot of credit, I had shared that I learned my memory of what I learned in the textbook was 12 to 14 hours, first time baby, and then like six
The
to
labor and
10
delivery.
babies thereafter. Yes, for to labor and deliver baby. And but when I was thinking of this concept, it doesn't take time. I remembered something else I learned about the 5 P's of labor, and they were power and position. They have to do with the passenger, which is the baby, and the position the baby's in. And that can be optimal or less optimal to promote labor. It also is the passage, so the mom's pelvis, and also her psyche, what she's believing about her ability to go through the process. So that's what I learned about what it takes. And time passes as those things happen, but optimizing those 5 things affect time and the length of the labor a lot more than just sitting around and waiting.
So yeah, so Megan basically shared, even I think it's interesting what you shared about the textbook saying 12 to 14 hours. Like if it took time, it would say it took 12.32 hours, and we would be
Yes.
able to label it because time was determining when the labor happened. I just want that to land for everyone a minute. If it took time, we would be able to know the amount of time that it took. But it's what happens in that time that brings labor on. And what Megan shared is that there's literal things that you can do to speed up or slow down labor, and things you can do, and also circumstances that can speed up or slow down labor. And I think this is huge because one of the things that we are looking to do at Time Hackers is destroy this narrative that things take time. Because, I mean, Megan, what happens, do you think, when we think things take time? And you can say this in the concept of your life and your experience. You can say it in the concept of labor. Like, how do we show up when we just think things take time?
I know just in my own life, when I think things take time, sometimes I'm then not being creative. I'm not looking for alternative solutions. I am also, like we talked about, finding what's in my locus of control. Sometimes I just give up all of my agency for the timeline. And or for my effort. I don't put in as much effort when I'm just waiting for time to do the solving for me.
Mhm. Yeah, because time is powerful. There's no point putting in effort. Our brains are so logical. If you're going to say things take time, and we say this about labor, we say this about carrying children, but we also say this about grief and heartbreak, time heals all wounds. And
Yeah,
when we have this narrative out in the world, one, it makes time powerful and us like at the mercy of time, this passage of time. And two, with our logical brains, the motivation is then going to be to wait and to do nothing. And the more we wait, the less powerful we feel, the longer things take, the more we stop trying to do things that we wanted to do because nothing's changing and the time is just
absolutely.
passing.
Yes. Yes, I love how you describe that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I actually shared with Megan, I had a quick labor. Now my baby was, super small. He wasn't feeding properly inside of me. He came on his own accord early. I was already in hospital because of complications, but so I was lucky in that way. But and then yeah, he was small. It was a super quick labor, and not because of anything that I did consciously or well. I think almost the opposite. He like was desperate to get out of me because he wasn't feeding. So he bought
Hmm.
early. You can probably know the technicalities more. But again, um it's that whole thing. I just see these examples everywhere. And I think, what do we do? How do we show up for our life, our goals, our purpose, our people, ourselves when we remove this time narrative, when we stop thinking things take time? So, for example, um, Megan could have said, "Oh, I'll be on the podcast one day, it'll just take time." And now she can say 3 years. Afterwards, it's like this known measurement. And I think there's something in our brain that likes that known measurement. But if every person listening to this podcast decided, oh, I want to be on Vicky's podcast, it's going to take me 3 years, they wouldn't all be on the podcast. Like,
Mm.
how did you get on the podcast? Let's like go through that as an example if you're up for it. If it wasn't time.
Yeah. I was just kind of thinking that as you were talking as well. And it reminds me of I could probably fill this out in Time Hackers. We talk about success blueprint. I could probably write out a success blueprint for this.
Yes.
And first of all, I had to be, I think if we start at the smallest point, I had to be interested in making some changes with my own time and how I thought about time and searching for support and solutions. And I found your podcast and I listened. And I applied some things that I learned, and then I had to make the decision to join Time Hackers. I'm not sure if you've had podcast guests that were not time hackers, but I feel like that was one next step, become a time hacker and then become a time hacker coach. And that also doesn't guarantee me a spot, but I knew it was one step that would likely move me closer to that and just learning the concepts more and applying them in the way I apply them and teach them.
Mhm.
And I think part of that too was bringing in parts of myself and things that interest me and applying it in my way. And I think I got a lot of feedback on when I shared that this concept about labor doesn't take time, where like I could see you were in your element, you were so passionate about it, and I really was. So I think that as well, just really finding a passion and sharing it.
Yes. So
It
just
was
because the people
nice.
might not know, when you're in the time coach certification, you do a project, which is where you take a tool or a teaching or a concept and you create your own like teaching or marketing. It can be a video, it can be a blog, it can be a social post or whatever, and we give you feedback on it. Um, and yes, you spoke about this, and I think that there was owning your expertise, being willing to
Yes.
share and lead and do something different, and to speak up and to be seen. And it's like all of those things. So yes, you got in the room. And yes, I do actually interview everyone who's in the certification for the podcast. I actually didn't think about that experience of
Good
everyone.
point. Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
also, you hit the goal twice because you shared something interesting, unique, you added your spin to it. and you taught me something, and you provided a new way to teach something. And I think that's super powerful. So I think if we're looking at creating your success blueprint, and as Meagan said, this is something we do a lot in Time Hackers, because if success doesn't take time, what does it take? Let's evaluate where we're creating success so we can recreate it. Then I think it was, getting yourself in the room, but also speaking up, being seen, being a voice, offering your own application of something. And like you say, having that passion and connection. So really fun to see.
I love how you pull all that out. Can I say something else that I was thinking of
Oh,
as you said that? So those are all the things that I did do that I feel like led me here. But you asked me earlier, how do you do it all in your life? But I didn't actually do it all to get here either. Because podcast coaches, or you might look up online how to get to be a guest on a podcast. Sometimes you have to send someone an email and ask them and propose them. I didn't have to do that. So I didn't even do it all to get here. You really don't have to do it all. You've got your own success blueprint and the principles that often guide you to reaching your goals.
what? That is so good. I just want everyone to think about what Meagan's just shared and what she just put together, which is the blueprint that is like mass told to so many people about how you get on a podcast. And I get loads of emails from people every week, what for guests on this podcast, is that you need to pitch hundreds of podcasts. And then once you've pitched hundreds of podcasts, you'll hear back from 10% of them. And that 10% of them will require you to fill out a form. And that form will require you to like give their podcast a review. And that, and screenshot. I've seen all of this type of stuff. And Megan's like, I didn't even need to do that. I just needed to be myself, speak up, be seen, like be an example of the work. And like, what? It's such a time hack.
Yeah.
It's so fun because I think a lot of people it's like the strategy versus what's underneath it. And this to me is what Time Hackers is all about, really. Like the strategy says, wake up at 5 a.m., put things in your calendar, follow the things on your calendar. And that's like saying email 300 podcasts. But even if you'd emailed me 30 times in the past 3 years, you wouldn't have got on this podcast. It would have literally been a waste of time versus what I think we do at Time Hackers, and maybe you can share about your experience here, which is what's underneath it. What's underneath it is like allowing me to see you, right? And like allowing you to be seen and sharing something different and being vulnerable and being open and leading. And like, if I think about the Time Hacker model, it's like your brains, your decisions, and your fear of failure. And in that, there was probably fear to invest in Time Hackers and the certification. There was probably a brain that was like, I can never be on the podcast, so there's no point trying. Those decisions that you had to make to speak up, to show yourself, to get inside certain rooms. So it's such a yummy example. What do you think when I say that?
Yes, I agree with all of it. There was definitely a lot of decisions to make with fear involved, like you said, to be in all those rooms and for the financial investment and even the time investment to learn and apply new things that are different for my very practiced 40-year-old brain. I'm having to relearn some things or unlearn. I think you talk about that in some of your videos as well. Um, and really it is what's underneath. And you've talked about how I got on this podcast is owning my expertise. And I see that in there as well. Just owning my expertise for me and my life. And that's what I'm finding as I'm doing with Time Hackers, really owning my expertise and my brain and using tools that are like the structure or the strategy as they work for me and adjusting them where they don't or creating my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had someone email in the past week a few times and say, what are the strategies that you actually offer? Because I've tried, like, I can't remember what they said exactly, but I've tried Post-it, I've tried setting 10-minute alarms, I've tried, like, so do you guys offer something different? And I was like, yes, we offer something very different because those are tactics and strategy level, and we go underneath it into brains, decisions, and fear of failure. And the response was, no, you're not answering my question. What strategies do you teach? And I was like, well, I'm answering your question, but it's not the answer that you're used to hearing, because you're expecting me to say to plan your entire week out on a Monday, to, have 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. And it's like, the way I see time hackers is kind of like what intuitive eating is to
Oh,
time,
yes, yes. I
right?
see
So
that.
it's like what's intuitive to Megan is not necessarily intuitive to Vicky. That's kind of the point. But can we give you the tools to make decisions, to have that self-knowing, to, bounce back after failure, or to use failure to learn differently so that you get smarter? And by the way, our metabolism, just like our time experiences, continue to evolve. So what works for you at 30 probably won't work for you at 40 and probably won't work for you at 50. And it's the skill
Mhm.
underneath there of like, how do I know what to test? How do I know how to test? How do I meet myself in failure? Um, how do I manage a brain that wants like to outsource responsibility to time or to other people, and then whatever it might be, wants to distract me or not have me do the scary thing. But it's so alien. And I think, yeah, I think it's almost, I still will say, I still think I am not selling it at the level that I want to, because there is
Mhm.
such a big education piece around like, what do you mean things don't take time? And what do you mean we're solving time without a planner or a to-do list? Like, what do you mean?
Yes, yes. Sometimes I still have to stop and, I've been in time hackers for 2 years, and sometimes I have to remind myself, wait, what does that mean again?
Same. Yeah. I
That's
actually remember when you joined. It was with Hustle Free
what
Holidays,
do
am I right? There was like
Yes.
live coaching. Do you remember it?
Yes, I was planning a birthday party for my son, and you
Yeah.
coached me because I felt like it was going to take so much time and so much energy. And yes, I remember that very well.
Yes. And what ended up happening, if you want to share with the lovely listeners?
And what ended up happening is oh, what did you say? Meeting yourself with the fear. I was definitely able to do that. And I was able to access more of the excitement for my son's birthday and his excitement for inviting his friends. And I I invited people, and I worked with my brain with the fear of it was a week's notice, not a 3 week notice. And I just kept focusing on how much fun he would have being celebrated. And we had the party, and it was fun, and it did not drain me like I thought it would. So
Yes.
it was
And I think
awesome.
it was such a brilliant example of what, as well, of like what really matters. And I've coached a few people around this, so I might be merging some coaching here, where it's like when we think of planning the party, we think about making sure that, there's pretty plates or pretty party hats, or like everyone, there's the right drinks and the right order and the right entertainment and the right, like all this, like this is going to make it a good party. And the more requirements that we are putting on this perfect party, the more stressed we are feeling, the more disconnect we're feeling, and like the less fun it is, versus balancing with like what is actually important for this party, for them to have a good time, probably for me to not lose my mind, and all of this stuff. It's like once you settle back into like what's actually important, and this is, I think, it relates to things don't take time. What's actually important when you're going into labor? It relates to all of it. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think it's such a fun visual example of I've only got 1 week. Okay, you've got 1 week. Can you create what you want in 1 week? And can you do it without stress when we stop believing that it takes time? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Have
really
you
new
got any other fun
experience.
examples for the people listening around like the challenge of, things don't take time?
Hmm. I want to say yes, but I'm trying to think. Um, I suppose I could even think about or talk about um, signing coaching clients. I
Mm-hmm.
have a couple that came to mind. My first certification that I did was health coaching focused on habit change.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at dinner with extended family, my husband's extended family. And he mentioned at dinner, it was the month before I was going to start the certification. And he said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Megan's going to be a health coach." And his aunt said, "I'll hire you." I haven't even
What?
started yet.
This is so fun. Oh my gosh. It's like you
And
literally
then,
just need people to know what you are doing. And most of us
yes.
like stack up all these amazing qualifications and certifications, and we can't use the words yet, but just using the words
hmm
creates the
I
client.
thought I would have to be done with the certification and do some marketing and
Build a website and the funnel and the
yes, yes. And
mm,
something similar happened when I joined the Become a Time Hacker Coach, where I was in a group and of other coaches, and I said, "This is something I just started a couple of months ago." And she said, "How much are you charging?" And I need you. And I tried to fumble through a few things of what that meant because I was so shocked. So what do you do? And I said something. And within an hour of getting off of that group call, she had paid me and signed up for her first call.
what? I didn't even know
And
that story. That is so fun because I speak about this. I speak about like everyone has a time problem. You just need to say it. But to have that lived example of just saying what you're doing and someone saying, I need you, how much? And then paying you within
mm,
an hour, that is so fun.
yes.
So now knowing that it doesn't take time to create clients, like what's
Hmm.
your blueprint going forward, just to share with people before I've just seen the time, so we will clock off in a minute.
Oh,
But
yes.
what would you say has been your success blueprint? And it can be across all the things that we've spoken about, actually. It can be across creating clients, creating parties, getting on the podcast, like and it's not going to be thorough, right? Because when we're actually creating our success blueprint, we're sitting and writing and writing and writing. But just off the top of your head, what do you think has helped create your success blueprints, just so people can start to think about it for themselves?
Oh, I love that. So some things we've talked about with the party, and I even think I got coached by Bridget on this with my blueprint for finishing nursing school because I felt like it included hustle, but she said, what else did it include? So just following my own passion and interests.
Mhm.
And you even said in the video for taking on time that started all this that it takes work, but I can't remember your wording now. It is work, but it doesn't take time. So even those things that do take work, finding my interest and following my passion and finding, like you were saying, what's underneath that excitement, what really it's about, and
Mhm.
not being disconnected, not letting the stress disconnect me from that,
Mhm.
and identifying really if it doesn't take time,
Mhm.
as time passes, what am I doing within my locus of control
Like
and identifying
responsibility.
those things. Yeah. And cycling in rest, not doing it all and making sure that there's moments of work, but there's moments of rest, supporting yourself through that fear and through that effort that it does take.
Mhm. Mhm. So good.
I would say.
So good. Just for context, for people listening, there's a video inside Time Hackers called Taking on Time. And Bridget is one of our certified time coaches that coaches inside the community and also has her own business. So just to give that context in case people are like, who's Bridget and what is taking on time?
Yeah.
Um, but I love that so much. It's really because some of the themes that I'm picking up are that connection, all that like connection to what you're doing, but also connection to why you're doing it and allowing it to be joyful, pleasurable, like heart led, like you led, and also taking responsibility. And these are all things that like when we have this time block in front of us and we're like, this is the thing that's going to do it, like we aren't connected, we aren't powerful, we aren't responsible, we aren't joyful. It's not particularly fun to be like, I've just got to wait for time to make things happen. So you can really see how removing time from the conversation allows you to access so many of these things. And I do definitely encourage you, Megan, to re-listen to this for your success blueprint, because sometimes
Okay.
we speak and afterwards our brain's like, what? I forgot what I said. But it's so fun that you've got
Yes.
part of it here and you can keep obviously bringing it to the Time Hackers community. Um,
Mhm.
but yes, just thank you because I think it's so valuable. I know a lot of people listening to this. Um, I mean, all of us, we're still in this things take time world. I literally do the work that I do, and my mum, my partner, my friends, my coach, my people will say to me, yeah, and it takes time. And I have to hold my mouth because I believe that nothing takes time. And I think that that is a really radical belief. But if labor doesn't take time, I think that's a pretty strong argument for why things don't take time. What do you
I
think?
think so too. Yes, I think so too. And I love including support in there too. You were talking a lot about connection, but I think it's increased my connection to other people and as well as myself as I take on the action of delegating and inviting other people to support me as I support myself. So yeah, it doesn't take time, but it can also you can involve a community
Yeah.
like time hackers or a coach. Yeah.
Well, on that point, so you've been in Time Hackers 2 years now. Is there anything you'd say to anyone listening who's curious about Time Hackers or interested in joining or what they could expect from it? Anything that flows from you? No, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, it is such a supportive space and a safe space like that. I already had an idea that it would be, but I've really been blown away at how much celebrating there is there and the access to coaching, the weekly live calls, and in the Facebook group. It really is incredibly supportive. And even having done so many of your free things and listening to your podcast, I was just blown away at how much more there is to access and to use for your brain and really to be um, to have myself so celebrated, even though you've provided such wonderful things and tools, it really has built me up. And I think I um I would tell my past self the investment is very much worth what you will receive and use from it.
So good. Thanks, Megan. And on that note, if you're listening to this and you want to work with Megan, it also doesn't take time for her to create clients. And
It doesn't.
you shared a little bit about who you're working with, but we will definitely link to what's your podcast called again?
Permission to Pause with Meagan
Permission.
Hubbard.
Yeah, and it sounds like really working with Megan is going to be super helpful for people who are struggling to pause, who are maybe taking on too much or have things that they don't have time for, dreams that they think that they don't have time for, and they want to do more, but do it from passion, not from hustle. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. So we'll leave the link to that in the show notes too. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for teaching me something huge and a perspective. And I think that there's a lot of people listening to this podcast where like these examples land so differently than just like the theory. So I really appreciate you bringing your wisdom. And this is what it is, by the way, like with the time tools generally, I spoke about intuitive eating, but also with the time coaches. I know I said we were really going to speak about it, but this is it. Like this is the example of like Megan having her expertise, her background, her unique like thumbprint of life experience and applying it to the tools so she can go and help people in a way that I don't think we could as time hackers, or we should, because I do think humans need humans. And anyway, I could go on, but it's really great to see the application. I think that also stood out to me when you were teaching, was like it was such a clear application of your unique thumbprint with the time hacker concepts. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Yay.
This was a
Okay.
joy.
Such a joy. So much fun to have you here. 2 podcasts in a week. They won't go out the same week, so don't worry. Well, not worry, it would be fun. But thank you for being here. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your experience, and thank you everybody for listening.
Bye.
Bye.